All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tapping into the Brooklyn Educational Opportunity Center's digital skills portal to look at managing client records. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Data entry? Really? But stick with me, because getting this right is actually a high-stakes mission. It literally forms the beating heart of any successful business.
So picture this real-world scenario from our source material involving a fictional company called TorTech. Imagine your manager pings you with this exact, urgent message. The pressure is absolutely on. You've got a super tight deadline to build a brand new client record for a guy named Marcus Webb from absolute scratch, and it has to be flawless before his morning onboarding call. How we handle this request right now? Well, it's going to directly impact the entire team's workflow tomorrow.
To get Marcus set up perfectly, here's our roadmap. We're going to hit the stakes of accuracy, break down the anatomy of a record, walk through the creation protocol, talk about maintaining those records over time, and finally, wrap up with hygiene and ethics.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the stakes of accuracy, and why precision is just so important.
Our source material really hits the nail on the head with this thought. A client record is only as useful as it is accurate. It sounds super obvious, right? But think about the reality for a second. A single transposed letter in an email, or just one wrong digit in a phone number, and boom, that specific field is entirely useless. And since a CRM, your customer relationship management system, is a shared ecosystem, one single bad record affects every single person on your team who touches that account. You are literally setting the baseline for everyone's success, or, everyone's failure.
This perfectly captures the butterfly effect of bad data. Errors don't just sit there in isolation, they compound over time. A tiny little typo today, like a wrong email address, means a failed marketing campaign 3 months down the line. Give it 6 months, and it's a missed invoice. By 9 months, you've got a highly confused, frustrated client who thinks your company just doesn't care. Small inaccuracies have incredibly long tails in the business world.
And beyond just basic communication failures, there are massive structural consequences here. Inaccurate records completely warp revenue forecasts because renewal dates and contract values are totally wrong. They mess up the whole team's workload planning. Plus, preventing a mistake is always better than fixing it, because correcting errors later leaves these incredibly messy, confusing audit trails. Ultimately, your accuracy is a direct reflection of your professional standards. Clean records earn you trust, and an assistant known for immaculate data, that's someone who earns a lot more responsibility.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, Anatomy of a Complete Record. Let's look at what actually goes inside.
Imagine you stumble across a lazy, half-finished entry that just says Marcus, with the notes listed as TBD. That leaves your team completely guessing. But a structured record, one noting that he actually goes by Mark and prefers texts, arms your team with absolutely crucial context. It prevents those awkward first impressions when a colleague calls and uses the wrong name or the wrong communication style. It's a total game changer.
So, to reach that professional level, these are the standard fields every single client record must contain before you can even consider it usable. We're talking the full legal name and nickname, the company name properly linked to the contact, verified contact info where you've double-checked every single digit, contract details for financial planning, and of course, contextual notes. Just remember, a CRM is a highly structured database. It is not a free-form digital notepad. Every piece of information has a designated home. Let's transition to Section 3, the creation protocol, and go step by step. Creating a record isn't just mindlessly clicking new contact and typing in whatever pops into your head. It's actually a strict 5-step protocol. First up, always check for duplicates so you don't accidentally split a relationship history right down the middle. Second, gather all your info, your contracts, intake forms, before you start typing to avoid transcription errors. Third, fill every required field. Fourth, link the contact to the company account so it doesn't end up as an orphaned record floating in the void. And fifth, save and verify, reading every single field back against your source document.
Now, huge red flag here. There is a massive danger in half-finished records. If you genuinely do not have the information, never ever use placeholder text like TBD or unknown just to bypass the system requirements. Instead, flag the record as incomplete right in the notes section and assign yourself a task to follow up immediately. Seriously, never leave fake data sitting around in a required field.
All right, Section 4, maintaining records over time and keeping that data fresh.
Let's fast forward a bit. Say it's 3 months later. Marcus is successfully onboarded, things are great, but he gets a new phone number. 30 seconds.
That is exactly how long it takes to log that new number immediately while you're still on the phone with him. Do not write it on a sticky note to update later. Do it right then and there. Taking those 30 seconds immediately saves hours of downstream damage control compared to trying to remember it later, or worse, having a colleague call a disconnected line.
And when you're updating information, whatever you do, don't just erase the past by overriding the old email address. Instead, document the update in the notes field. What changed, why it changed, and exactly when. This creates a crystal clear audit trail, explaining the whole situation for anyone who might review the record down the line.
Now, if Marcus ever leaves his job or TourTech ends the relationship, remember this golden rule. Archive, don't delete. You want to preserve that historical context by archiving outdated records. You really never know when a relationship might be revisited months or even years later. And permanently deleting that record, well, that just erases all of your team's hard-earned contextual knowledge.
Finally, we've arrived at Section 5, Record Hygiene and Ethics, looking at system-wide quality. I know record hygiene doesn't sound glamorous, but following a routine schedule absolutely prevents massive system failures. Monthly, you should be using the CRM's built-in tools to run duplicate checks and merge any redundant records. And quarterly, you need to audit your contract renewal dates. Actually, expired, unupdated contract dates are one of the most common and, for sure, the most costly CRM quality failures out there.
To keep things really clean, it is incredibly helpful to standardize your data entry formats. If some phone numbers use parentheses and others use periods, it makes your records so hard to filter and export. Just pick a format and stick to it. Also, always flag incomplete records for follow-up, and crucially, document your cleanup process in a shared log so you aren't duplicating hygiene efforts with other assistants. Okay, we absolutely must talk about the ethics of this work. CRM records are legal business documents. Protecting client privacy is a massive professional responsibility. But even more than that, altering these documents falsely to cover up a communication failure or retroactively changing a date to make a timeline look better, that isn't just a bad habit. It is a very serious form of professional misconduct. We always want our system to reflect the absolute truth.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. If someone audited your client records right now, today, what story would they tell? Would they see absolute professional dedication or just a bunch of messy data? The database is a reflection of you. Treat every single entry like a high-stakes mission, and you'll become an absolutely indispensable part of your team. Thanks so much for joining me today.